Good afternoon and welcome to the Outdoor Art Club presentation of Local Business Heroes, How I Changed My Business to Support My Community During the COVID Shutdown. We apologize for being a few minutes late. My name is Deborah Duck and I'm working with fellow OAC Zoom team member Kathleen Taylor to bring you today's program. For those of you not familiar with the Outdoor Art Club, we're a nonprofit women's organization founded in 1902. The club engages in civic, cultural, and charitable work in our community. When we were founded, our membership helped sick and needy families with rent, food, and clothing. During the COVID crisis, the club continued that tradition in many ways, including sewing and donating masks, donating coats, and making financial donations to the Canal Community Alliance and the SF Marin Food Bank. As you know, we are using the Zoom webinar platform today. Zoom has two different functions, one for chats and one for Q&A. Please direct all of your questions to our speakers to Q&A anytime during today's program. We are reserving time at the end of this talk and welcome your questions. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jill Fugaro. Jill is a member of the Outdoor Art Club and is the program chair for today's event. Welcome, Jill. And thank you for bringing us today's program highlighting our local business heroes.
Thank you, Deborah, and greetings, everyone. Boy, this past year has been momentous for so many reasons. It's hard to even begin to describe it. We have three very special Mill Valley business leaders with us today to talk about their experiences guiding their companies during this past year of the COVID pandemic. I am thrilled to welcome Susan Griffin Black, CEO and co-founder of EO Products, Peter Schumacher, partner in the Mill Valley restaurants Buckeye Roadhouse, Bungalow 44, and Playa, and Ryan Canepa, partner in Mill Valley Market and the great-grandson of its founder, the fourth generation of his family to run that grocery business. Our first conversation this afternoon is going to be with Susan Griffin Black. Susan is a native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and went to Penn State. Then she moved to New York, where we met 40 years ago when we were both in the apparel business. That seems like a long time ago, Susan. She was a merchandising designer for Terra at that time, and then moved over to Unique Clothing Warehouse on Broadway. And then she moved and made the momentous decision to come to San Francisco, where she opened a store called East Coast Girls on Market Street. A number of years later, she joined the international apparel wholesaler Esprit. And then she and her soon-to-be partner, Brad Black, started importing essential oils from England and mixing them, I think in her garage. We'll find out. And in 1995, she actually launched EO Products by doing private label for Bloomingdale's holiday catalog. 26 years later, here we are, Susan. You've launched two product categories. I think our audience is familiar with the signature blue bottles of EO, which are aromatherapy oils for meditative moments, and your affordable botanical body care products, everyone for everybody. Susan is the mother of a son and a daughter, and her colleagues have said that her Buddhist practices carry her values into every part of what she does and reflect in every item her company produces. Welcome and thank you for joining us at the Outdoor Art Club, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
It has been quite a year for you. Share a little bit about what EO did to pivot your business products in response to the pandemic shutdown in March of 2020.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to everybody because I feel so grateful to be part of this community and really I'm grateful for every single person here. So when Corona hit, I was on my way to a trade show that we attend every year in Southern California It's sort of Mecca. It's the Natural Products Expo. And it was canceled as I was driving down. So I kind of kept going because I thought I had a little bit of time and nothing was clear yet. And I went to Santa Fe. And then my sister, who owns Tamalpie Pizza, and she called and she said, "It's really bad. You have to come back." And it was sort of like surreal, you know. I raced back, got home on a Friday night, and when I woke up in the morning on Saturday, I walked around the corner to our little store, and there was a line around the block as if the Grateful Dead was playing at Sweetwater, you know. And what happened was I just saw how afraid and panicked people were, and it really, just the seeing of it and the experience just really got to me. I started handing out sanitizer to people, and then I went to Mill Valley Market and gave it to all of the cashiers. You know, I live right around the corner from Mill Valley Market. I'm there all the time. And then we went into full production for the community, for first responders, for fire, for police, and of course for health workers at UCSF, Marin General. One of the tricky things was just realizing that our distribution system was not set up locally. You know, we palletize, we send products to, you know, DCs all across the country. But then when I looked at every single possible place that we could have sanitizer, or where sanitizer could be, of which there are probably 10 or 12 in the community, when you looked at how it got from us to them, it was such a, you know, a inefficient way. So we just started donating and taking charge of distribution in a way that helped as many people as possible. And then we devoted all of our resources to producing hand soap and hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes for both brands for the next 10, 11 months.
And you were, I think I recall when we were chatting last week that you were running a couple of shifts of employees. And how many employees were you managing through this process?
Yeah, so we were running 2 shifts and not working on the weekends so people would stay sane. And then on the health side of it, it was just so tricky to really make it safe for people, to do whatever we had to do to make it safe for our essential workers, which included people who are making products, filling products, shipping, QA, QC. So of that, there were about 130 people who were essential workers on staff. And so we put all, you know, COVID protective protocol in place right away, contact tracing, worked closely with the health services. And we did a pretty good job of keeping everyone safe. And then the other 60 of us worked from home. And, you know, that was a whole new world in and of itself to initiate and then keep going. But we didn't lay anyone off. We didn't raise our prices. We just stuck to the plan. And even at that, you know, I think we could only fill about 60% of the orders. Mm. And as we talked about before, it's sort of an entrepreneurial dream to, you know, have such demand. And it was very, very sort of compelling at first, but then it was really stressful and challenging because we couldn't meet it.
Yeah.
And we couldn't meet it with an essential product, you know, so it was quite a scramble.
So you had 190 employees at the time and 160 on the campus.
130, yeah.
130 on the campus, and then and some working remotely. That had to be a challenge. What was the most surprising thing that occurred in your business during the pandemic year so far? Working with buyers, for example, because you had talked about doing that. How did you shift?
Yeah, so one of it was supply chain, right? Because no one was prepared for this. And so while we get most of our products stateside, there are things like pumps that we get from China. And so just matching up the components, tops and bottoms, with labels, with, production schedules and everything was really tricky. And also just the whole sanitizing wipe area is something that we contract out, and we're very closely aligned to that partner, but the lead time went from, 60 days to 120 days. So we were chasing that pretty hard. And just, between keeping everyone safe and everyone sane, it's safe isn't just physical, right? It's mental, and it's just dealing with the stress that came with all of us. It was, we just, a sort of one day at a time, taking on whatever challenges were there and working through it as best as we could.
Now, how did you work with your buyers from your various clients across the country?
A lot of it is pretty automated because we work with so many distributors, and we also worked on allocations so that we weren't shipping everything to Amazon because Amazon works on an algorithm. And so if you're ordering to what was purchased at that time, it was astronomical. We just couldn't even, touch whatever that number was. Mm-hmm. So we would just scale it back, look at what we could produce, and then proportion it so that it was fair for everybody. And then also took into account our local obligations to keep everybody safe, and that was foremost.
Now, how did you use social media to convey the info on the safety of your products? Because we found a plethora of hand sanitizers wind up on shelves. And did you do something to assure your customers of your quality versus what has been showing up?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because we've been making hand sanitizer with EO for 15 years, we went through H1N1 in 2008, and then having, two products, we had a lot of credibility because we've been doing it for a long time. The 900 or so other companies that sort of joined in the sanitizing business in the past year, about 150 of those were recalled because they were using toxic alcohol. It was either methanol or the wrong thing. And the FDA really loosened up in those months because they just wanted to get hand sanitizer out there. So that was really unfortunate. Mm. And then also what's happened is there's quite a glut, afterwards, because everyone sort of rushed into this business as an opportunity. And so and people who weren't really committed for the long term. So then you found all sorts of holes in efficacy because it wasn't regulated at that time and so forth. So we just really stood our ground, and we did our best to supply, but not get greedy, because it's such an opportunity to do all sorts of contorted things to try to capture additional business. And that just wasn't our MO, because we could see how difficult that was going to be. It wasn't even possible.
Talk about, when we get closer to home here in Mill Valley, your decision that I think was probably a tough one for you to close your Throckmorton store. And what ways will your business handle the retail public now? I know people depend on that store to refill with larger containers, their smaller containers. What's your plan about that?
Yeah, we've moved it mostly to online, our own e-com, and then also are asking local retailers to sort of beef up inventory and carry different things that we knew sold in our store, and we could try them out in, surrounding stores. And that was a difficult decision, but you can see that for almost 10 months, all we were producing was sanitizer and soap, which doesn't really make for such a great retail environment, although very necessary for as long as we could. But then, and I felt like we had to stay open through COVID. Our lease was up, and so it was an opportune time to just, it was a beautiful little store. We loved being part of the community, but not necessary, really.
Right. And where did those employees go?
Well, they had a choice of coming to work at the company, or or not. And so one person's at the company, one person's traveling and thinking about what she wants to do. And then I think the other two part-time people just went their separate ways.
Okay, that's great that you gave them the chance to come back into the company. That's terrific. Well, just to wrap this section with you, Susan, what are you working on now in your business? What's next?
Well, we've got a lot of hand sanitizer and hand wipes. And I'm saying this because we're in a donation program with Revolution Foods that does the, school lunches. And if anybody here or is listening needs wipes or sanitizer, please get with me and we can arrange for donation. We'd rather get our products out there, but we're on the other side of the equation. And other than that is bringing favorite products back into the stores and online, and of course, new products for the fall.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Susan. We will see you as part of our business roundtable to answer some of the Q&A from our audience at the conclusion of our other two guest remarks.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I want to welcome Peter Schumacher to tell us about his last year in the restaurant world. Peter was born and raised in a family in the restaurant business in Switzerland. And as he left school and did post-grad travels in Europe and North and South America, absorbing ideas about those cultures and foods of those different nations. And he wound up landing in New York City, and he worked at one of my favorite spots to stop and have food, at the Grand Central Oyster Bar and at Drake Hotel. And then in 1992, moved to San Francisco and became part of the management team for the Jazz and Supper Club, Bix. And then worked there a number of years, and then in 99, involved himself at the Buckeye Roadhouse, and now is also a partner in Bungalow 44 and Playa in Mill Valley. When Peter's not working, he shared with me that he loves to spend time outdoors. He plays tennis, he mountain bikes, he works out. He's the proud father of one boy and two girls, ages 18, 22, and 25. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, thank you very much. And thanks for having me on this panel. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, we're delighted to have you. You know, this has been a challenging year like no other in the history of the restaurant business. You have faced shutdowns, smoke from wildfires, and you can share more, I'm sure. I'm eager to hear about it. What quick changes did your restaurants have to make to accommodate that March 2020 federal directives and county mandates about COVID health protocols?
The decision came so quickly. It was really, really hard initially to absorb what's going on. But thinking back, it seems like such a blur where we were shocked and we kind of knew maybe it was coming. But all the restaurants were surprised that the decision that March 16th came so abruptly, and all our walk-ins were full of food and the refrigeration was there, and we had tons of reservations for weeks and weeks ahead, and the staff was scheduled and nobody really knew what was going on. The staff was very worried. Of course, people were scared, and within a few days though, we came up with a plan. It's like, we want to stay open, we want to at least serve the community, we want to provide food to take out, and started realizing what food works really well for takeout and what doesn't, and what packaging works. And very quickly, within a few days, we changed our business model from hospitality indoors and gracious waiters and servers to packaging food, and hopefully in an appetizing way. So that was very, very, very quickly we had to adapt, and I think we actually did a really good job, and yeah, we continued doing that.
And how has that evolved over this course of the last year?
We fine-tuned our takeout for sure. You know, we started in partnerships with delivery services. We started an online ordering system on our website. We really, the takeout was a big part initially, and not knowing where this is going. You know, remember now, put yourself back in March, April last year. There was nobody really knew how long we were going to be shut down, right? Nobody knew how bad this virus is, and it was really where we didn't know. We just took kind of day by day. We went. It's like, oh, let's do this now because we don't know what next week will hold. And you know, and the community really was unbelievable, and we are so happy. And maybe a lot of small towns have this support, but Mill Valley and Marin, this is an unbelievable place. We really learned how much people appreciated the restaurant business. Each restaurant, I think people started realizing that they don't want to lose restaurants. It's part of the community. And I'm almost getting a little emotional about it, actually, because none of us really noticed, or we didn't realize how much people loved restaurants until this happened. And the generosity from customers, either through buying gift cards ahead of time and handing them out to their friends, or leaving huge amount of tips, creating websites so we could feed the firemen and first responders and doctors and nurses, so we could make some money to feed the people who couldn't get food. It was really quite incredible. I couldn't think of a better place to have restaurants than right here.
Well, that's good to hear, Peter. Now, what was the impact of COVID relief packages for your employees?
The government reacted very quickly and decisively. So when the PPPs were there fast, but they didn't reach every business the same way because they were just kind of handed out. And we were first told we have to spend this money within 8 weeks. And we were like, how can we spend the money on our staff since you locked us down? We don't have a lot of staff. Mm-hmm. And the ones who were started getting unemployment, they didn't want us to pay them because then the unemployment would have stopped. And then they switched the 8 weeks to 6 months, which really was an important decision. So that gave us time to, okay, think back a little bit. Eventually for us, it was it was saved our restaurant that we probably would have closed for a certain amount of time. If not for the PPP loans that paid for the staff, because we were losing money despite takeout was, you know, that kind of held us afloat, and we didn't want to, and gave people jobs, but we still lost tens of thousands of dollars every month. So at least the payroll was paid, and that made a big difference. Yeah, the PPPs didn't reach every business though, you know, like bars that were still closed, and a lot of the people who support us, I'm not sure if they received. The farmers maybe not have received it. You know, the linen company, the garbage company, the fishmonger. There's so much involved. The restaurant is just one central part of so many sources moving in.
Yeah, which leads us to the hardships on those suppliers. You mentioned the linen company. Talk about what happened with your fish suppliers and wine and liquor reps.
Yeah, a lot of our liquor reps were laid off because, you know, we weren't selling any wine, very little liquor. People we've known for years, all of a sudden, none of them had jobs anymore. The fishmonger pivoted to a new business. He started, you know, selling fish to people's homes. But the farmers had all that fresh, you know, lettuce and selling to all these restaurants. And I'm sure the grocery stores picked up some, and I bet the Canepas can talk about that, but they were equally affected just like we were. One of the things I did want to talk about is, I think you had asked me that question, that the key challenges was, if you, again, think back now, the virus was just starting and people were scared. My staff was scared. They didn't really want to work. So we had a meeting with them over Zoom and phone calls, and some said, I don't want to come to work. I'm too afraid. I don't want to get the virus. other staff members said, I need to work. I have a family support. I can't get unemployment for whatever reason. So we made decisions. We talked this that we felt like we should stay open for those people who want to work and feed the community. At the same time, we didn't want to make people work if they don't want to come in.
Yeah.
You know, so they were scared for their jobs, for their health. My wife was worried, you know, I would go to work and bring the virus home if I get it there. And so it was really, really emotionally very hard to stay on top. And I felt it was definitely my job to be, you know, a leader and be positive and be show some leadership there where you make people confident that we will be open when this is over. And then you know, the Floyd killing with the Black Lives Matter movements, and that made us feel weird. We're just trying to stay alive as a business, and it almost made us feel guilty for not being more socially conscious. And then the fires happened with the smoke. So it was just such a roller coaster for everyone last year. You know, now that we have our vaccines, it almost seems like a long time ago. But if I put myself in those months back last year, it was brutal. It was really hard.
Yeah, it was tough for the restaurants for sure. Are there some positives that have come from this pandemic and things that you've learned or practices that you're using now that you've employed that you'll continue as you go back to being fully open?
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit. There's number one, I enjoyed having to be creative and pivoting back and forth. That gave me, and be honestly somewhat successful at it. That gave me a lot of personal enjoyment. We learned that maybe a little less work and less profit is okay to spend more time at home with family, and it's not all about, you know, going after the money. We also learned who your loyal staff is, your loyal customers. And then the biggest part is probably the appreciation of outdoor dining, which I will encourage everyone to help us keep it going, because the quality of life of outdoor dining in Mill Valley, California is something that we should keep, where people are more important than cars and parking spaces and things like that. So there's a lot of good things that come out of it.
You know, we recently saw you, my husband and I dined at Buckeye Roadhouse, and you've got a back tent structure there. We had a lovely meal. Do you plan to continue these outdoor tent setups at Bungalow 44 and at Buckeye Roadhouse? Will those become
absolutely? Yeah, we love outdoors, and it adds, you know, another venue. And some people are still not comfortable going inside, and they may not for a long time. 150% capacity, and maybe people don't want to go into a restaurant that's completely packed and, you know, and 5 deep at the bar. So, and it's just a lovely atmosphere, particularly Bungalow and Playa. It's magical to be out there in the Bungalow tent right now. So, and the city has been amazingly helpful.
Good.
And hopefully it will let us keep the tent for a long, long time to come.
That's terrific. Well, thank you, Peter. We'll look forward to additional remarks as we address our audience questions after welcoming our final Mill Valley business leader, Ryan Canepa from Mill Valley Market. Ryan is Mill Valley born and bred. He started his schooling at Edna McGuire School and wound up at Tam High. He studied agricultural business at Cal Poly. And as I mentioned in the original introduction to Ryan, that he is part of the 4th generation. His great-grandfather, Frank Canepa, founded the market. Ryan has worked his whole life at the store. His wife, Celia, and Ryan have a son who is 5 and a 2-year-old daughter. And when he's not running around with them and at the market, he really loves outdoor activities and does find time to coach a water polo team at Tam High. His timing was quite amazing. Ryan, you joined your Uncle Doug and your father David and a friend Abner in January 2020 as a partner in Mill Valley Market. What a time to become partner. Welcome to the conversation this afternoon, Ryan, and thank you for taking time away from your incredibly busy grocery market to share some of your experiences of this past pandemic year and your first year as a partner in the business. Unlike the restaurant and entertainment and arts worlds that were shut down in March 2020, what were those first few hours like for you and days like being deemed an essential business?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, those first couple of days was definitely a blur. Or it must have been like March 12th to 13th. There started to be some rumors that there might be shutdowns coming. The virus hadn't really got to California yet, or in Marin much. They were starting to talk about it, and then all of a sudden we could start to tell that customers were getting really nervous. They were just buying kind of excessive amounts of things that we don't usually sell a lot of. We don't sell a lot of Campbell's soup generally, and I was selling out that kind of stuff. And then that weekend, right before the shutdown happened, all of a sudden people really started to freak out. They literally were walking down the aisles and just scooping all of the product into their cart. And we didn't know what to do. I mean, we later started to limit the amount of things people could buy, but we, just like everybody else, we didn't know what was going on. A lot of people seemed to be under the impression that if they stayed in their house for 2 weeks, they'd be safe from the virus. Obviously, we know that was wishful thinking at the time, and it lasted a lot longer than that. But those first couple of days was kind of pandemonium. We had lines filling up the store the whole day, and just emptied anything that would keep. Canned soup, canned beans, tomatoes, dried goods, all of that stuff was just wiped out. I didn't have a single bag of rice in the store. I didn't have a single can of tomatoes. I barely had any canned soup. All of that stuff was just cleaned out, and that's never happened before. I've been there my entire life. I've never seen the shelves empty like that. So that was shocking, to say the least.
So you mentioned, I guess everybody decided to become bakers.
Yeah.
So if you ran out of those smaller items, the smaller bags of flour, how did you recover from that? What did you wind up doing?
Yeah, so when that first weekend, we got cleaned out of just about anything. I tried to place orders through my normal suppliers, and I would order, say, 1,000 cases of various goods, and the delivery would come and they would only have 200, 300 cases. So I'm not getting most of what I ordered. Luckily, we have relationships with a lot of smaller distributors and smaller suppliers, so we could call around and ask for favors. These people have been working with us for 30, 40 years, and we got a lot of favors that way, products that they would set aside and send to us. We got desperate, like you said, with flour. I couldn't get any flour. All I could get was 200-pound bags, 150-pound bags, and I had my kitchen staff package it up into smaller 2 or 5-pound bags so we could have something available for the customers, because people were desperate. So we had to get a little creative on things like that, and bringing in items we'd never brought before. I ran out of rice, I think we talked about, and I realized that I had a small Japanese supplier that I buy stuff from occasionally, and I called him up and I said, I need any kind of rice you have that's in a reasonable sized bag. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what the brand is, just send it in. And luckily he came through. He delivered it in his own personal vehicle the next day and dropped off a bunch of product for us, which really saved us.
Oh my gosh. And I think you'd mentioned eggs too. Did you go to new egg suppliers?
Yeah, we ended up buying eggs from anybody who had eggs, anything that looked like an egg. I mean, we had stuff we'd never seen before, and they were flying off the shelf, and even we were limiting how many people could buy, and we still just couldn't get enough. Especially at the beginning, people were really just kind of under the impression that if they got enough to last a little while, they wouldn't have to leave the house and they'd be okay. And obviously things developed from there, and it didn't really work out like that.
Now, how did you find sources for these scarce food and supply items when those larger chains stores couldn't?
Yeah, so like I kind of mentioned, the big chains for the most part buy their product from their own distribution warehouses or 1 or 2 major suppliers. We, as a regular practice, buy products from hundreds, maybe 1,000 different smaller suppliers. So we had more places to go. More people to ask for favors, more options to choose from. Also, since we're not a chain, if I want to bring in something, I just bring it in. The managers at chain stores have to get approval and things like that. I don't have to worry about any of that. Mm-hmm. And also, honestly, I think we just cared about it a lot. We live here. My wife buys our groceries at the store. My mom shops there. My dad, my friends and family. So it was important to me, to all of us, to have product on the shelf for people. The first couple of days, I was getting a lot of phone calls and text messages from my friends who live in town. Are you going to run out of food? What do I need to come down and buy? And I tried to assure everybody we'll have stuff. You know, might not have your favorite of everything is what we told people a lot, but we will have something.
Yeah, well, as a customer, I can say you did a marvelous job. I'm curious, and I think our audience members would be too, about how was the comparison of your fresh food, the things in the vegetable and produce aisle, versus the packaged goods impacted? Did you run out of fresh food?
Yeah, so that's interesting. And Peter kind of talked about it a little bit. When the restaurants shut down, there was a lot of fresh food on the market. Meat and seafood were fairly easy to come by, and produce as well, because the restaurants weren't buying it. So especially seafood was kind of overabundant. The seafood sellers were calling us and begging us to buy more. There's only so much seafood, and it doesn't keep. So a lot of people were hesitant to buy it. Like, people were trying to buy stuff that would allow them to only go to the store once a week or once every other week. So seafood wasn't ideal for that. So I think a lot of the seafood vendors were really hurt that way. But we tried to buy up as much of that kind of stuff as we could, especially the vendors that we have long-term relationships with. We share a lot of vendors with somebody like Peter, and a lot of those salespeople were coming in and, can you please buy some more? I need, we have a bunch of this, and we tried to help out whenever we could.
That's great. Well, what quick changes did you make at the store to accommodate safety for your clients, your customers, and for your employees? And
Sure.
talk a little bit about the story you and I chatted about last week about how you came to bring the hand washing machines to the front of the store.
Sure. So we had to make a lot of changes right away. We had a very different experience than a lot of businesses during this time. It was kind of put out in the news that our type of business is essential and we're not supposed to close. But then there wasn't a lot of guidance, at least immediately, on what we were supposed to do. It was stay open, do it safely, kind of figure it out on your own how to do that. I reached out to anybody that I thought might have any information. Spent a lot of time on the internet when I get home from work researching what kind of sanitizers were effective and things like that. The hand wash stations, I happened to be in the office one day, and I was looking out towards City Hall, and I see the garbage company delivering a hand wash station out to City Hall. And I thought, that sounds like a great idea. Luckily, since we live in a small town, I called Jim Ivroni, one of the owners of the garbage company, and I asked him if we could get a couple, and the next morning he dropped them off. And I think it's made a big difference. Like it's happening all over the country, our regular incidences of illnesses has dropped to almost zero. And I think that that extra hand hygiene definitely makes a big difference.
Interesting. Now, talk about how your employees, your regular employees, were impacted by this.
Sure. So we were, like I said, a totally different position than most businesses. We were lucky that we didn't have to let anybody go. Nobody's hours got reduced. If anything, we were begging people to work more if they wanted to. But everybody was scared, especially at the beginning. We were all scared. We didn't know how it was transmitted. We didn't know how you could get it. So we made it clear to people if they weren't comfortable with coming into work, they didn't have to. Not very many people chose to stay out. The few that did, we totally respected that decision. It's a personal choice. I know I was scared. I'm coming home to my wife and 2 small children, and it was scary. So we totally respected that. And so we tried to do everything we could to be safe. Once we were told that we were supposed to wear masks, you couldn't buy any. So my mom and her friends sewed, I don't know, 300 or 400 of them for our staff. Which really, that made a big difference, because you couldn't buy any anywhere. There wasn't any available on the market. So we tried to do whatever we could to keep people safe. And I think we've done a pretty good job there. But it was definitely scary. I know I would come home from work nervous that I had the virus on my clothes. I don't know, and it was, that was tough.
Yeah. Now, you ramped up and managed food delivery and pickup, because some people were nervous, understandably, your customers, about coming into the store. What part did online ordering play, and how did you manage that transition?
Yeah, so that was tough. The first couple days, we have always, as a service that we've always offered, as we do grocery shopping for people, and it's in the past generally just been the elderly or somebody who got knee surgery and they temporarily can't walk. We've done that as an occasional service for people. When this whole thing started, all of a sudden the phone started ringing off the hook. We were getting emails, can you please give me this? Can you shop this? So we realized we had to figure out kind of a centralized system. At first, within the first few days, all we could come up with is we created a dedicated email address that all the orders would get sent to. Luckily, we have a good relationship with the people of the community, so we didn't have a sophisticated system that lists how much we have, what things cost. People just basically sent us a grocery list. They would say, I want a dozen eggs and a bunch of bananas and some apples, and we just did our best. And the customers were great, really understanding that we had to make a lot of substitutions. We couldn't fill everything. So we did that for a while, and then we threw together a website ordering form to make it a little bit more organized, but it's still in the same form now. And it's basically just people are sending us grocery lists and they're trusting us to do the best that we can.
And who did you have staff? Did you have to add staff to do that?
Yeah, at the very beginning, we have since added staff that does that. At the very beginning, there wasn't any staff to add. We didn't know how long it was going to last. So it ended up being my wife helped out, my dad's wife helped out, you know, personal friends of ours helped out. Staff members would volunteer to work extra days sometimes to do that. I was filling a lot of grocery orders myself. We were kind of just scrambling however we could. So we have since had to add some dedicated staff members to that. It still continues to be a very popular service. And then for deliveries, I would make them on my way home from work a lot of times, or, you know, we kind of split them up, me and my other partners. You take these ones that are by your house and I'll take the ones by my house. And
what kind of changes are positives from this past year, and what will you continue in the grocery store? Things that are kind of surprising to you?
So I think the extra hygiene stuff is definitely going to continue because there's not really much of a downside to that. Like I said, we've reduced our regular illness rates quite a bit. I think in some form, online ordering and stuff is going to continue. I think some people really enjoy that. We've always done it to a limited extent. I'm sure we'll continue to do it a little bit more. It's tapering off, but I'm sure people will continue to do that. We had to bring in a lot of new items. Some of those stuck and became popular items, so we've continued to carry those. But we're just kind of in the process of trying to figure out how to get back to whatever normal is going to be. So we're not sure what that is yet.
So, and what would you say was the most surprising thing? And if you look back at the past year, the most surprising thing?
The most surprising thing at the beginning is just kind of how overwhelming it all was. It all happened very quickly. There was a lot of tension in the air. Everybody was nervous, and it was just kind of overwhelmingly busy. I know I was working 7 days a week, 13, 14, 15 hours a day. And that just got to be a little too much. And we, like Peter said, I think we've since realized that maybe not being there as much and spending some more time with your family is important.
Yes.
I mean, obviously it's always been important, but it reinforces that.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you, Ryan, for sharing your pandemic story with our audience. Now I'd like to bring back, have you stay on and bring back all the other two speakers to address some of our audience questions. And I'm going to pull those up. Welcome back, everybody. Let's see here. We've got a few questions and you'll know which one kind of applies to you. Let's see, we've got a question. How did the pandemic affect the Mill Valley Market Farm? That would be to you, Ryan.
So I don't know really if there was any regulations that affected it, but just as far as we didn't have the capability to do much. At the beginning of the pandemic is kind of an off season for farming anyway. But it just kind of got pushed to the side. Not a whole lot happened there, at least for the first 6 months, because we just didn't have any time to think about that. My uncle handles that, and he was at the store too much to really even think about it.
Okay, thank you. Continuing on, a question from the audience. For the first few months of the COVID lockdown, it felt like I had a wish list instead of a shopping list. It seems like the stores are restocked now. Is there anything that is a particular challenge to get back in stock?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are still having a hard time getting back in stock. It kind of, kind of goes in circles. There'll be a random item that I can't get for a month, and then it comes back in. A lot of the items are the big name products, S&W, canned tomatoes, and things like that. Those types of businesses aren't really set up to adapt in any way. You know, they make a year's worth of product in 2 months, and then it lasts a year, so they just can't turn the facilities back on. So a lot of that stuff we still don't have.
Uh-huh.
I'll say something.
Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
You know, what's not in stock is employees. We have a really hard time finding our staff that had left. Either they moved away to less expensive states or more open states like Texas, Arizona, Montana, or they left the construction business, or who knows where they are. But we really have a hard time, and I hear that from all my colleagues, that all of a sudden we don't have enough staff, and maybe they took that as an opportunity to jump ship from, you know, the restaurant business, which has never been easy. But so anyway, that's kind of a shortage for us.
Yeah. Susan, did you see any of those changes in your employees?
Not really. It was more based around staying safe,
Mhm.
and people were really grateful to have a job. So that, you know, between that, I mean, we again are because it's a different rhythm and cadence, our business, than the immediacy. We were able to sort of cope with it as it happened.
Yeah.
And it just affected how we fill our orders. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Ryan, wasn't your staff scared at the same time when they were working with all these people inside?
Oh yeah, the staff was definitely scared. I was scared. I mean, we definitely had quite a few people, you know, almost have breakdowns because it was nerve-wracking. You know, you hear this stuff on the news, and then you come to work and there's, you know, a couple hundred people coming out of the door all day. So we try to limit the amount of people in the store, but no matter how much you limit, it's still just a lot of strangers coming in and out. It made people very nervous, and I totally understand all of that. I felt the exact same way.
Yeah. Peter, this question looks like it's for you. Can you share the new program you've set up with Dispatch Goods reusable takeout containers? And the audience member wants to thank you for that.
We just started this pilot program with reusable containers. The first one in Marin, and it's a city company. They're run by two ladies who are just powerhouses. They're really awesome. And the goal is to have hopefully as many restaurants sign up to these reusable containers. And if all restaurants would have the same containers and bowls, and you order, it's a constant floating and going around. So there wouldn't be any waste. And right now, if you order it through us, you pay $2. It costs us $5 an order. So hopefully we can make it work, and you can pick up your food, and then you can text the number on the bag or on the container, and they'll come pick it up once a week on Thursday. Or you can drop it off at the restaurant again when you go downtown next time.
Very good. Susan?
That is so fantastic, because I've been just watching trash and my neighbor's trash. And I've been saying, like, I don't understand why no one is doing this. So I'm so glad. And I'm so glad that you're the first to do it. That's great. Thank you. Yeah.
Have Karen do it.
I will.
Okay.
Yes.
They have pizza boxes too.
You know, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Susan's sister owns Tamil Pie, so that's what they're referring to. Well, we're getting to the end of our time. I just wanted to certainly thank every one of you for being with us today. You truly are our local business heroes living in the community. I have appreciated each and every one of you. As we near our end, have we missed anything? Do you want to give you an opportunity to share any information you'd like to with our audience before we say goodbye?
I would like to express our gratitude to the people in Mill Valley. I talked to a lot of my people in the industry, and their biggest problems are customers giving them a hard time about wearing masks or not wanting to follow the rules. And in Mill Valley, we did not have that problem ever. I didn't have a single customer give us a hard time about any of the COVID rules. If anything, they were giving us helpful suggestions. And so we really appreciate the community that we're in, made this whole thing so much easier for us in a really difficult time.
That's great. Great to hear.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
Like-
just
Yes, Susan?
love you, Mill Valley, and thank you all so very much. Such a beautiful place to live.
All right. I
Well,
agree with
thank you.
Susan and Brian. Thank you. Seriously, it's the best place. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you all, each one of you, for taking time out of your incredibly busy business schedules to share your tales of the pandemic with our audience. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Right.
And I want to share with our audience what's next coming up at the Outdoor Art Club for upcoming virtual events. Take out your calendars and please mark May 6th at 1 o'clock. These will be virtual events again till the end of the year. We're going to be having Supervisor Stephanie Moulton Peters will give an update on Marin County news and issues and talk about her agenda as supervisor in the whole state of the county. That's May 6th at 1. And then the second event that you want to know about is May 13th. This is an interesting one. Again, 1 o'clock, virtual event, the latest and greatest news from the distant universe. We will be hosting Dr. J. Xavier Prochaska, who's the professor of galactic and stellar studies at UC Santa Cruz. I didn't even know that was a thing. So he will be talking about the latest exciting discoveries in astrophysics. So be ready for some surprises. You can register on our public events page at our website at outdoorartclub.org. We look forward to having you all join us for these upcoming events. Thank you so much for being with us today. Please stay safe and goodbye for now.